friends, welcome to our vlog. Today we are going to talk about our visit to Kashmir. This year during the summer vacations for Rishik we planned our visit to Kashmir. Kashmir had always been on our bucket list. We wanted to go there but couldn't because of one reason or the other. We'll talk all about our visit, how did we plan, what did we do there in this video. But before we start, it's important to talk about three kind of visits that you can do to Kashmir. One is the touristy kind, where you go to all the best places that tourists like to visit, which are prepared for visit from tourists and have all the infrastructure. Then another kind of visit that happens is more spiritual or devotional, where you go to the yatras to Amarnath, which are not very comfortable, but devotees go in large number every year. And then third is more adventurous, where you want to go to higher areas, trek, and go to not so comfortable places in Kashmir. So this visit was more of a touristy. We were traveling with a 4-year-old kid, so obviously we weren't going to all the adventurous locations. So the places that we covered were Srinagar, which would be your entry and exit into the area, and then we also stayed in Sonmarg, Pahalgam, and Gulmarg. So try to cover most of the touristic destinations that we have in Kashmir, or which are there on the tourist circuit of Kashmir, and we'll talk a lot more about these in this video. So when we talk about Kashmir, first thing is how to get there. Srinagar is the only civilian airport in Kashmir area, so that's your entry and exit into the region if you are flying. It is well connected with major cities in India, so you wouldn't find it difficult to find a flight out there. It is also well connected with the road network from major cities. You've got buses coming in from Punjab, Delhi, and other areas, so you could take a bus journey as well. The last train head right now is Jammu, so you can either take a train to Jammu and then take a taxi or bus to reach Srinagar. So you wouldn't find it very difficult to reach Kashmir in many ways. Now, moving within Kashmir is another thing. Again, not very difficult. There's good public transport if you are up for it. Buses, though they are not comfortable, but you'll find them if you are looking for them. But what we recommend is having a taxi, because that's more time saving and much more comfortable in many ways, and they are not very costly to save. What we did was a package tour kind of a taxi, where we had a taxi that would take us through all the places and drop us back to the Srinagar airport. But if you want, you can get individual taxis very easily, which would be more point to point. So you can get one from Srinagar to Sonmarg, and then once you're done with Sonmarg, you could take another taxi from Sonmarg to Gulmarg or Pahalgam, or any of those combinations. And another important question for any trip is, where do you stay? So again, for most of our stays, we got them booked through our tour operator, so it was easier for them to coordinate between the driver and where the places were. The reason was we were apprehensive how good the networks would be, and would we be able to use Google Maps to find locations. So if the same agency books the hotels and the driver, then they would be able to better talk to each other. Now, where did we exactly stay, or what our recommendations are? So Srinagar, mostly you'll at least spend 2 nights in Srinagar, once while you're getting in and another while you're coming out, and that's how we recommend as well. In Srinagar, we would say that you should definitely spend 1 night in a houseboat, unless you are really paranoid about cleanliness and need those 5-star facilities. These are basic yet all functional units, so we would definitely recommend that. Another night should be in the main city area. If you can get something around Lal Chowk area, which is the primary market region, that's the perfect thing. When we visited Sonmarg, we took a place which was called Village Walk, which was kind of outside the town slightly, but it was at a place where there weren't any buildings around, so the views of Himalayas were unrestricted, and it was beautiful, nice, cozy place to be in. So we did enjoy our stay there. Then in Gulmarg, we chose a facility by Heaven Resort. Pretty good facility, nothing wrong in it. Slightly uphill from the gondola, so if you can get something gondola ride, that's better, because you'll be leaving early in the morning for that, and Gulmarg wouldn't have a lot of local transportation. In fact, for most of these towns, the local transportation is limited, and your car cannot take you there, because the tour cars are only allowed to take you until your hotel, and then the taxi unions come into picture, and they wouldn't allow those cars to take you to places. So something nearer to gondola would be good, but this was pretty good facility otherwise. Again, in Pahalgam, we had another facility from Heaven, which was like one of the best hotels that we ever stayed at. Functionally and logistically, it was all good and nothing too fancy, but the location was simply which took it apart. I mean, it was situated right besides the Leather River, which was gushing because Pahalgam is kind of on slope, so the river takes that speed and momentum. And this facility is located right besides the river, so they've got riverside lounge kind of stuff and gardens where you can sit and eat and order snacks and everything. So it was really fun time there. So in generally we don't recommend specific hotels if you've looked at our videos, but for Pahalgam we would definitely highly recommend you to take this facility, and nothing beats that. So now let's talk about what did we do and how did we spend our time in Kashmir. So we landed at around 11ish in the morning, took an early morning flight from Delhi. We were picked up by our driver at the airport, provided a brief set of instructions, and then they took us directly to the houseboat. Now we chose houseboat stay as our first night because we wanted to start in a more relaxed way, chill, unwind before starting that entire journey. And once we were at the houseboat, it was definitely a new experience. We had all the apprehensions. We had read a lot of videos and reviews saying these are filthy and there are smells around and it's not clean and stuff like that. While I wouldn't say these are 5-star facilities, for sure they are not. You wouldn't find the best of the comforts there, but these are still functional. Our houseboat was pretty clean. We stayed at New Bombay houseboat. It was pretty clean, well equipped. The furniture was nice. The look and feel were antique because that's the purpose of it, but otherwise fully functional. They were everything that we needed in our room. These are like wooden boats which are stationary, so that's the difference between houseboats or the cruises that you've seen at other places, right? Which are moving and only anchor in the night. These houseboats in Dal Lake are all stationary, permanent. They don't move and go anywhere. Our host, the owner of the houseboat group, was gracious enough. He provided us an overview of what the history of the boat is, how it was manufactured, the effort that went into it, and it was an interesting story to hear from him, and the passion that he showcased was simply visible in the way he was communicating. So if you're in the evening, after we relaxed a bit, had our lunch, chilled out with the views, we booked our Shikara ride, the first Shikara ride. We'll do one more when we come back to Srinagar, but we did one Shikara ride that evening, lazing, chilling, relaxed, drifting on the Dal Lake. When the rower rows your boat slowly, snow-capped peaks of Himalayas in the backdrop, beautiful Dal Lake with all the shikaras, which are pretty colorful, and houseboats around in the foreground. It was a great ride. So that 1 hour that we did was perfectly relaxing. We did get to see the sunset on that trip as well, so that was covered. And then that ride also takes you to the floating market of Dal Lake. We wouldn't recommend buying anything, but there are few shops which are shelling out snacks and Maggie and drinks, so you may want to try on that. Now, next morning we got up early, again tried to grasp as many views as possible, and got ready for our trip to Sonmarg. Interestingly, the driver insisted on leaving very early for reasons best known to him. We did try to adhere, but not that strictly, frankly speaking, and in hindsight, it wasn't needed as well. It's a 3-hour ride, very scenic, very beautiful ride to Sonmarg. You got all the greenery on both sides. There was slight drizzle when we were going, so it was simply more awesome. So we loved the journey, and then 3 hours later we checked into our hotel. We freshened up, we came out of hotel to explore the area and plan our next steps. We had planned for Thajiwas Glacier in the evening, but we hadn't booked any of the tours for that, and we thought we'll figure it out on the way. So, and figuring it out is not very difficult, because as soon as we came out of the hotel, the tour operators for Thajiwas Glacier were ready. These are like pony owners who come in and offer their services. So Thajiwas Glacier is built up on the hill, and while they've got a road built until the glacier, they don't allow you to take motor vehicles. So there are only two ways: either you trek to that place or you take a pony ride. The route is definitely treacherous. So if you are on a pony, hold it on tightly. Since it had drizzled earlier in that day, it was pretty muddy and sluggish as well. So it is an adventure ride. That's how I could call it. I mean, it's not a comfortable ride for sure. But at the end of it, the journey is well worth it. The place is definitely scenic. The river flowing by, the mountains in the backdrop, everything is so perfect. The moment stops there for you. You want to capture everything in your eyes and take it away with you. So we enjoyed our stay there, came back and ended the day back at our hotel, area around the hotel and explored the scenery around that. Did some shopping as well, but it was fun. Next day, day 3 of the trip, we started in the morning with a visit to the Zozila Pass and then stopped at what they call a snow point or zero point, which is a place where you get snow even during the summer. So in the mid of June, there was decent enough snow to play with. The kid was seeing snow for the first time, so he was excited, and that's the reason we had included it as part of Itinerary. So we had some good moments. Wifey rode the snow scooter up till the top of the hill, and apparently there was much better snow out there. Had some good moments, came back to the hotel, checked out, and then proceeded to Gulmarg, which was our next destination on this trip. As we move towards Gulmarg from Sonmarg, the scenery changes, the nature shows a different color, while Sonmarg is a lot about slopes, snow-capped mountains. As you move towards Gulmarg, it's more greenery, lush green forests, conifers are pretty common. So the scenery changes, you see a lot more greenery and forestry, and it is a pleasant change from what we were seeing in Sonmarg. Also, it shows the beauty of nature and the kind of diverse experience that nature can offer. So it took about 3.5 hours to reach Gulmarg, and we checked into our hotel at the Haven Resort. Pretty good entrance, nice scenic location. Again, a lot of greenery all around, nicely set up room and everything. And interestingly, this was also the day when we were celebrating Rishik's birthday. So his birthday comes on 20 June, which invariably is summer vacations for kids, and we make it a point to visit some place generally to celebrate the occasion. So we did small celebration back in Sonmarg as well when he woke up, and then we continued the celebration at Gulmarg. We decorated the room and then did a good birthday song and small cake cutting and everything. So had fun, used the rest of the evening to relax and unwind and talk a lot and do what you're supposed to do on a vacation actually, right? After that, next day we were scheduled on the gondola ride. Now Gulmarg is predominantly visited for the gondola ride, which across 2 phases takes you to a pretty high point where you can have fun with snow. Whatever we saw in photographs and videos and other blogs, it looked almost similar to what I have seen on Mount Atlas in Switzerland or other Alp peaks. So we were really excited about it, but things sometimes go southways, right? That was a particularly bad weather day. It was drizzling since morning, and then gradually it started raining relatively heavily. And the gondola ride does not work if the weather is not right, obviously, right? Because of the sensitive system and everything. So when we reached the gondola station pretty early in advance for our ride, we were told that the rides are not functioning temporarily. We still were hopeful that the weather may improve, and we waited for about an hour and a half when it was announced that the authorities have decided that the gondola would not run that day. But at the end of the day, the weather wasn't good enough to move out. We didn't want to go to places just for the sake of it, so we decided that we will use this as a rest day, have fun on our own. We had few toys for the kid, and we were all child at heart, so we played those, enjoyed the resort, and spent the day unwinding in true sense. Next day, it again came with a new sunshine. New sunrise brought new opportunities, and we were destined to a new location. The weather was pretty good compared to yesterday, so we were really hopeful of a great day coming ahead. And our next destination was another town called Pahalgam. We checked into our hotel at another Hivan property. Hivan has properties in most of those towns, so we ended up choosing one in Pahalgam as well. And even before check-in, right, when we were getting down from the car, we were pretty mesmerized by the location itself. Now, for the context, there was a flood warning that day in that region, and Pahalgam is also on kind of slopes, so the river named as Leather River has good amount of momentum in its water. It's like a big river, it's not a small tributary or something, and with all its force it passes through Pahalgam, and then our resort was built right on the shores of that river. The excitement was simply unnerving in some ways. We got down from the car, and then there is a wooden bridge that you need to cross. So there's one side where it's town and the other side is predominantly the hotel. So we had to cross that wooden bridge, and then someone helped us with the luggage, of course. But as we were moving through the bridge, we were sure that next 2 days in Pahalgam would be really full of fun, must-be, and everything that we want a holiday to be. Even if we don't end up doing anything in Pahalgam, this was what could occupy us for entire 2 days. So this way we spent most of our evening chilling out, having fun, taking a stroll by the river on the other side of the bridge, and then came back to the room, called it a day. Next morning we were up early because we wanted to capture the first rays of the sun right by the river. So we took that opportunity, got ready, and we were doing the most common touristic activity that you do in Pahalgam, which is the valley tour. So the valley tour is basically an excursion, half-day kind of activity, where you take a car and then it takes you through 3 valleys, which is Chandanbari, Betab Valley, and Aru Valley. And one thing about it is, obviously, as we told you earlier, our car couldn't take us, so we had to take a different car from the taxi stand. Now, the only difference in Pahalgam, what we saw was all the rates were publicized and were printed on the taxi stand and everything. So it was no haggling. You know the price. You either take it or leave it. You go to the counter, take a ticket. They'll show you a taxi number. You go take the taxi and then go on the trip. So it was much more organized, much more systematic, much less of an hassle. We took a car and started on our journey. The first stop is Chandanbari, and Chandanbari and Betab Valley are on one side of Pahalgam, while Aru Valley is on the other side. So the first stop generally is Chandanbari. Chandanbari is particularly famous for the kick-off point for the famous Amarnath Yatra. There's another point, but this is the most popular one. So there's a lot of rush during the festive periods and the Yatra period. It's a scenic location, again by the river with the peaks in the backdrop. Pretty fun to do. There's small hike that you need to do, which is like 5 minutes hike. Again, these points are not as important as the journey itself, because the views that you get on the road are what you are there for. Betab Valley is more of a park kind of development that the authorities have done. So there's nice large gardened area with waterfalls, small tributaries going in. There are few swings as well to engage kids, and then it's such a big park that they run again those similar push trolleys where they would offer to take you on a ride on those push trolleys across the. So did have some fun there, and then went to Aru Valley, again a very scenic point. It's also a kick-off for a start of a pony ride to another peak, which we didn't opt to do because we were pretty tired by the time, but yeah, that's something that you can do as well. Overall, we spent about half a day kind of it, and then go back to Pahalgam by 2:30ish. We asked the driver not to drop us on the hotel, but into the Pahalgam market, which was a pretty bustling place. There were enough shops around to pick up some souvenirs. Kashmir is especially known for its pashmina shawl, its local woolen clothing and stuff around that. So we did pick some of them while strolling, had some snacks on that street, and then walked back to our hotel. Again, spent the rest of the evening lazing around the gardens and enjoying the flow of river, and also reminiscing the entire trip, thinking a lot about it because it has been such a great trip so far. Next morning, we were again heading back to Srinagar. It was the penultimate day of the trip. We would be back to Srinagar, another 3.5 hours of a ride, and we checked into our hotel at Lemon Tree. Pretty decent hotel, not up to Lemon Tree standard, but it looked like Lemon Tree had just taken over the place and were still trying to get to their standards, but functional, served its purpose, was located just opposite to the cantonment area. So there was pretty much a lot of security around and everything, but in all a good hotel to stay at for one night, not long. We took an auto from there after checking into a room, and then went back to the lake for another shikara ride. Spent another 1 hour floating on the water, grasping all that we could of Kashmir within ourselves. And then we went to the Lal Chowk area for some quick shopping, and then exploring the area because we heard so much about that area, right? All the news items carry that. So did that, came back to our room, spent the evening packing, and then preparing ourselves to go back to the daily drills and monotonous life to some extent. And next day we started early for our flight because Srinagar airport is a different airport to board a flight. Because of all the security concerns and everything, there are at least 3 levels of security that take place. Even outside the premises of the entire campus of airport, your cars are frisked and sniffed upon. Then, before you enter the airport premises itself, have to take out all the luggage out of your car and to take it through X-ray machines. These are large X-ray machines where you need to take it again, load it back on the car, and then the car drops you at the airport gate, and you come down and again do all the regular stuff that you do on all the other airports. So it's relatively more time consuming to board a flight from Srinagar. That day incidentally was a day where there was a VIP visit as well, so that entire airport was haywire. But yeah, whenever you're boarding flight from Srinagar, take extra time, be prepared to unload and load your luggage yourself and carry it to some distance without the help of those trolleys and everything. But overall, it is what it is, right? So we did all of that, checked into our flight, and waited for about half an hour around the gate, just thinking back, thinking of the good times that we had. And so this was the broad itinerary that we wanted you to have a glimpse of and the experience that we had in Kashmir. We noted down a few things that you should remember when you are in Kashmir so that you're better prepared. One is only postpaid SIMs work in Kashmir. So if you got a prepaid SIM from other places in India, or if you are foreign tourists and you pick one prepaid SIM in Delhi or whatever airport you landed, you'll need a postpaid connection. So get it well in advance because it takes some time for activation. Get a postpaid connection when you come in here. Another thing is it's a sensitive area from a security point of view, so there are a lot of checkposts. You'll find heavy security presence, military and police all around. So one is not be overwhelmed by seeing all those policemen around. They are there for security and they are there for a reason. They would get their work done and not disturb you a lot. But also this means that you need to be ready for checkpoints coming in at any point in time and being added on as the need arises. So what this means for you is to have enough buffer in your travel time, especially when you're traveling on road. If there's a military cordon going on, then you would have to wait for it. There's nothing that you could do or anyone else could do. These are military requirements and you adhere by them. So be prepared. Touristic place. So this is probably true for every place, but we saw it especially important in Kashmir. You need to be prepared to haggle. Don't go by what the first prices are quoted, because they are generally 2 or 3 times higher than what it should be. Research well, have an idea of what the right amount would be, because you don't want to quote a very wrong amount in the negotiations and then not ended up doing a particular activity, right? So research well, be prepared. Don't be intimidated. We did see that at some places you will be surrounded by a few folks and then they would all say no, this is the price, and you would be tempted to give in. Stay at your stand. They are there to do their job. You're there to explore and have fun. So that's fine. Win-win situation. Another thing that you need to be prepared for is the way this works. So let's think about it. There's a systematic way of commissioning in Kashmir. So when you go to places like Sonmarg, your cab driver gets a commission on the pony operator. So even if you try and talk to the reception at your hotel, they wouldn't provide you a lot of information and keep referring you to the cab driver. As you move to Gulmarg, the commissioning system is owned by the tourist guides. Your cab driver gets a commission in getting you a guide, and then guide gets the commission of all the activities that you do further from there. Way ahead in Pahalgam, it's much better because the rates are publicized. So the commissioning is relatively less, or it's not visible on the front. And last but not the least, have cash on you. It's not, while digital payments have taken up and then Paytms and all those wallets do work, but and credit cards and everything is accepted at big hotels and everything, but it's not all digital friendly everywhere. Mobile networks are weak sometimes, so you need to have cash on you at least to some extent. In the outer reaches you may not find ATMs that often. So have some cash, while you carry most of it in cards in whatever format, but you cannot completely do away with cash in a country like India, and especially a region where networks are an issue. Most importantly, be prepared to have fun, enjoy every moment, because this is a heaven on earth for sure. So the Mughal emperor who said if there is a heaven on earth, it's here, here and here. wasn't definitely wrong, because this was one of the most beautiful locations we've been to. And trust me, we've been to Europe, we've been to US, but this was by far pretty good destination to me. So that's all on this vlog. Hopefully we did provide you some value and some information. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in comments. We'll be happy to answer. If you want any suggestions, any ideas for your trips, we're happy to discuss that out. Reach out to us on any of our social media platforms. Happy to engage and happy to help. And until our next trip, see ya. Bye bye.